Okay, this is chapter 16, Development of Organisms and Continuity of Life. We are looking at reproduction in plants, where we have to study about sexual reproduction today, which involves two important processes of pollination and fertilization. For reading these two processes, we must know the general parts of the flower because flowers are the sexual reproductive organs of plants. For that, we also need to know different kind of flowers and plants. Let's see what sexual reproduction in plants is. It involves flowers, like I told you before, and it involves two important processes, that is pollination and fertilization. For reading these two, we must know the general parts of the flower. It is a typical plant, a flower which has all the parts, starting from the petals. These are huge, larger in size in those plants where the pollination has to take place through insects. This is the sepals, which are green in color and are responsible for photosynthesis if they are green or if they are containing chlorophyll. They also protect the flower at bud stage. Then we have a flower stalk or pedicel. Coming to the main parts of the flower, which is the male reproductive organ and female reproductive organs. Let's see the male reproductive organs first. These are called stamens, which includes anther and filament. The structures are labeled here in the diagram. On the other hand, the female reproductive organs consist of stigma, style, and ovary, which are labeled in the diagram. If you can see, the stigma is the first part, then there is a tube-like structure called style, and which ends in the ovary, which contains ovules. These ovules contain the female gametes, while the anther contains pollens, which contains the male gamete. Here, if you can see that the ovules are attached to the main stalk, this main stalk is called placenta. This placenta holds the ovules, which are connected to the main placenta through a small tube-like structure, which is called as funicle. Receptacle is the broader part at the base of the flower. So this was all the general parts of the flower. Remember that it is not necessary that all the parts would be present in the flowers. Some of them will have some parts and while others will not. So there are some terms that we need to know. A group of petals are called corolla, while calyx is the group of sepals. Here also I've tried to show you the general terms that you will be using in this chapter. Corolla is the group of the petals. All the petals together would be called as corolla, while gynoecium is the another name for the female reproductive organs, which includes stigma, style, and ovary. Androecium is the another name for male reproductive organs or stamens, which includes anther and filament. Then we have calyx, like I told you in the previous slide. These are the group of sepals. Here again, I have tried to show you the simple structure of a flower with their respective parts. This is the view from beneath. You can see the calyx, which is the group of sepals. I told you that their function is to carry on photosynthesis if they have chlorophyll, and they will protect the flower during the bud stage. Then we have corolla, which is the group of petals. You will learn about their function in the topic of pollination, where you will learn that the color, the scent, and the attractive color of these petals will attract the insects for pollination. The same petal and sepals are made here also. Then we have stamen. In the previous slides, I told you that stamen is anther and filament combined. Pistil is another name for gynoecium or for the female reproductive organ, which includes the stigma, the style, and the ovary. Receptacle is the broader part at the base of the flower. Then we have the pedicel or flower stalk or the main stem. Here in definition, like I told you before, stamen is composed of anther and filament, while pistil, carpel, or gynoecium is the combination of stigma, style, and ovary. This is the female reproductive organ, and this is the male reproductive organ. Here again in the same manner, I have drawn a different slide where you can see the anther and filament making up the male reproductive organ called stamen, while carpel is another name for gynoecium or pistil consisting of stigma, style, ovary, and ovary contains ovules which are attached to the main stalk, that is the placenta. Okay, what is pollination now? I told you that sexual reproduction involves two important processes, that is pollination and fertilization. So pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma. Anther is the male reproductive organ, part of the male reproductive organ. Here in the anther, pollen grains are formed. Pollen grains contain the male gamete, while stigma is the part of the female reproductive organ that would take the male gamete and will transfer it to the ovule which is present in the ovary. What is fertilization? It is the fusion of gametes, that is of male and female gamete to form zygote. This happens in ovary, like you can see in the video that the pollen grain has landed on the stigma. The pollen tube will be formed. You will learn in detail about it. Once the pollen grain falls on the stigma, a tube-like structure is generated which is called pollen tube. It will transfer the male gamete present in the pollen grain, and it will lead to fusion of the male gamete with the ovule which is containing the female gamete in the structure called ovary. So fertilization is the very important part of sexual reproduction in plants. Now we have to see how many types of flowers are there. There are flowers which are called unisexual flowers. They will contain either a stamen or a pistil. It means that a flower that would either contain the male reproductive organ or would contain a female reproductive organ. Uni means one, sexual flower means one reproductive organ per flower. Bisexual flower, as the name indicates, will contain both male stamen and female reproductive organ which is called pistils. On the other hand, a complete flower has all the four rows of floral parts. It will have sepals, it will have petals, it will have stamens and pistils. So this is a complete flower where all the structures are present. Bisexual and unisexual flowers, again it is being explained in the form of diagrams here. If you can see, a bisexual flower is containing both the female reproductive organ and the male reproductive organ. On the other hand, there are two other flowers being drawn here which are unisexual flower. Either they are containing the male reproductive organ which is anther and filament. You see here in the staminate flower, you cannot see or you cannot observe any female reproductive organ. So this is a unisexual flower. On the other hand, here anther and filament are missing, so it is containing only the female reproductive organ consisting of stigma, style and ovary. So it is also a unisexual flower. Flower symmetry, it means that can we divide or categorize flower in order of their symmetry? Yes, we can. We can divide them into two categories: bilateral symmetrical flowers and radially symmetrical flowers. A flower capable of being divided into only two equal parts, the mirror images, by a line passing through the middle of the flower. Other lines passing the middle of the flower will not give the mirror images of one another. Such a flower would be called as bilaterally or bilateral symmetrical plant. On the other hand, a radially symmetrical flower would be capable of being divided by more than one line passing through the middle of the flower into two equal parts that are mirror images of one another. Here in the diagram, I have shown you that a flower which is said to be bilaterally symmetrical can be divided into two mirror images, two parts which are mirror images of each other by a line passing through the middle of the flower. If you will pass any other line, it won't give you any identical parts. On the other hand, in radially symmetrical flowers, you can make lines, many lines, which will divide the flower into many parts which would be identical or which would be mirror images of each other. Then we have a term called superior and inferior ovary. Here in the diagram, I have tried to show you what these are. Inferior ovary means when the location of the ovary is beneath all the other parts. If you can see here, the ovary is down, while all the parts, including the sepals, petals, and male and female reproductive organs, are above it. So in this case, we will say that the ovary is inferior because it is lying beneath all the structures. On the other hand, a superior ovary is lying above all of them. The sepals are lying below, the petals are, and so are the stamens. So when this happens, when the ovary is lying above the structures, these structures, we will say that the plant has a flower has a superior ovary. A monoecious plant is translated as a single house, meaning that male and female flowers are found on a single individual. So if you see here that the plant is containing both kind of flowers, the pink is showing you that this flower is containing female reproductive organs, while the blue color is showing you that the flower is containing male reproductive organs. So if you see that both kind of the flowers are present on the same plant. On the other hand, there is another term for the plants used as dioecious plants, which means double house. It means that male flowers are on one plant and female flowers are on the other plant. If you can see in the diagram, the blue color flowers are showing you that they have male reproductive organs. They are present in the one plant, and the other plant is containing all the pink flowers, showing you that they are containing only flowers containing female reproductive organs. Here in the diagram again, I have tried to show you what these terms means. Dioecious plants means that the male and female flowers are lying on different plants. Bisexual flowers means flowers that contain both male and female reproductive organs. A monoecious plant would have both kind of flowers. Both flowers means one containing the male reproductive organ, the other containing the female reproductive organ. In this diagram also, I have tried to explain these two terms. If you see that hermaphrodite flowers means bisexual flowers. If you can see the structure of these flowers, both are containing both the reproductive organs, male and female. Both gynoecium and androecium are present on the flowers. Both of these flowers will be called as bisexual flowers or hermaphrodite flowers. On the other hand, monoecious plants means a plant that contains two kind of flowers. Both are would be called as unisexual flowers, means one flower would be containing the male reproductive organ and the other flower would be containing the female reproductive organs. Dioecious plants, on the other hand, would be two plants containing only one kind of flower. Either they will be containing gynoecium or they will be containing androecium. It means that each plant would have one unisexual flower on them, whether it would be a male reproductive containing flowers or female reproductive organs containing flowers.